Hi, it's Jam and Jude, and today we're going to be talking about a really cool and really awesome topic. And that's the bracket updates and the unbans. Say hi, Jude.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm excited to talk about this. This is exciting news in the commander sphere.
Yeah, I mean, the last time that we got any updates was a little bit ago. I mean, it was not too long ago. But the last time that we got unbanned was like,
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think the last unban we got was probably Worldfire, right?
Probably, that sounds correct.
All right, so we're gonna get into it and we're gonna talk about some of the unbans and some of the bracket changes. All right, first up, we're gonna talk about win the game unbans, and that's Panoptic Mirror and Coalition Victory. So today we're just gonna do a little bit of summarizing since there's so many cards, but I'll try to summarize them pretty efficiently. So Panoptic Mirror is a card that allows you to imprint an instant or sorcery if you pay X, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may copy the imprinted instant or sorcery. And then Coalition Victory is a 3 and 5 pips. You win the game if you control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. And honestly, I think these are pretty cool. What do you think, Jude?
Yeah, I think I'm fine with both of these. It's something to keep in mind with all of the unbans that have happened, which I believe there were 5 total, is that every card that has been unbanned is starting on the Game Changers list. I I don't know if they talked about this in the articles, but I guess theoretically they could come off of it in the future if they prove to just not be problematic whatsoever. But assuming that you are properly using the bracket system as the pregame discussion tool that it is, if you are very aggravated by the idea of panoptic mirror, um, extra turn loops or coalition victory just winning on turn 8, if no one has the counter spell or removal for it, then you can just play in bracket 2 and below and you won't have to worry about it.
And I mean, there's cards at like similar mana values that win the game. I
Yeah,
should.
or more or less win the game. I mean, uh, and I don't know. I find coalition victory a little boring personally, but I'm not very interested in 5 color generally. But I think it's fine to have around.
I think
Um,
it's about as boring as Niv Mizzet Curiosity,
eh, yeah,
but
I
that's
mean,
that's already allowed in the format. So
yeah, and say what you will about both those things, but these both end the game at least. Panoptic Mirror, I'm a little bit more interested in, just because, yeah, the obvious thing to do with it is to just, clone a Time Walk or whatever and take an infinite turns. But there's more interesting things you can do with just rebuying instant or sorcery every turn. I mean, there's already Isochron Scepter for doing that with smaller ones, but one of the things I thought about doing with this was like collected company, and you can force everyone at the table to like live out like post 2015 modern.
you could throw a blasphemous act under it.
Oh, I mean, that is a little bit less fun, but yeah, you could do that.
I've thrown blasphemous act under a card that's similar, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, I'm sure that you had lots of fun, yes.
um,
Wait,
yeah,
that would you know what that would be funny with? Is Brash Taunter. Because, again, at that point, it's an actual win condition as well, which, I always appreciate when these big, splashy spells are in service of winning the game rather than just vomiting a bunch of lands onto the battlefield or cards into your hand or whatever.
yeah. Commander games are already hours long. Let's let them end, please. All right,
Agreed.
that's all I have to say about these cards. So we're gonna move
Yeah, I think
on. Next, we're going to talk about one card that was unbanned and one card that was added to the game changer list simply because I think these cards are fairly similar. They're not the exact.
should I summarize these two since you did the last one?
Yeah, you can go ahead and summarize them.
So first up, the unban is Gifts Ungiven, which is 3 and a blue for an instant. It tutors for 4 cards, and then an opponent of your choice picks 2 of them. Those 2 go into your graveyard, and the other 2 go into your hand. And then Intuition is similar. It's 2 and a blue for searching for 3 cards, and you get to keep one of them. Uh, what are your feelings on Gifts Ungiven and Intuition Jam?
I feel like there's an important thing that you didn't say about gifts. It's
Hmm.
up to 4. So
Yeah.
technically you could get 2, but with intuition you have to get all 3.
Yes. The failing to find rule. I don't know if anyone else. I don't know if you've seen like the Ristic Studies video about this, but uh, I have, and I just think it's cool that a card with a lot of like unique history is unbanned now, and we can play with it in like pods that are allowing game changers and stuff. But I think that's most pods. So
I think gifts is a long time coming. I mean,
yeah,
intuition is it's a similar card and like it sees some niche CEDH play, but I don't think it's like really breaking that format. But basically these cards are basically just find piles and well, it depends on what power levels you're at. Cuz at higher power levels, these are no matter what piles you give me, I'm going to win the game. And at
yeah,
lower power levels, which is where I find these cards most interesting, they become politics cards where it's like, please give me the cards that will help me deal with the arch enemy
yeah.
and this other card that will help me advance my game state.
Yeah, there's different ways to use this, which I think is always a point in a card's favor. Um, you can just fetch a bunch of stuff with flashback, and that way you can have your cake and eat it too. But I don't know. It's gifts, especially because you have the ability to only search for 2 cards and thus put them both in the graveyard. There's like a little demon in my brain that's been wanting me to build Chromium Control with like a Reanimator win con for a while, and gifts getting unbanned does not help with that.
I mean, control is always a little bit fun. You should listen to the demon inside your brain.
Yeah, I've been meaning to build a control. It's not even necessarily the control part of it that I take umbrage with. It's just I already play so much black. It's like I should just build a Zorius control, just be normal. But that's a being normal is a continual struggle for me.
I mean, but black has some of the best cards.
I I know. I'm well aware. I love playing black, but I just like I need.
I will say intuition works really good with black because there's a lot of flashback reanimator spells.
Yeah, this can also in blue black specifically, you can grab both of these with mystical teachings, or you can grab mystical teachings with these, and if they go to your graveyard, who cares? Flashback.
I do love a good mystical teachings
Mhm.
fetching for every single dirty card in the format.
Yep. Or
Oh,
waterlogged teachings, the MDFC one.
yeah. Well, isn't there also the one with like it's not cycling, but it's similar to cycling? That's also a counter spell.
Uh, I don't know what you're referring.
Muddle the mixture.
Oh yeah, the transmute card. Yeah.
All right. That's all I have to say about these cards. You want to say anything else?
No, I think. Well, I think we rambled a decent amount, but we covered pretty much everything that needs saying.
All right. Next up, a card that was unbanned and a card that I feel like we should talk about it based off of the unban.
Yeah,
So
they're comparable.
the card that was unbanned is Sway of the Stars, 8 blue blue. Each player shuffles his hand, graveyard, and permanents he or she owns into their library, and then draw 7 total cards. their life total then becomes 7.
Each player's life total becomes 7, even.
Yeah. So they went ahead and decided to unban this because a previously unbanned card was World Fire, which exiles everything and sets everybody's life total to 1. And most people don't play World Fire, and the people that do play World Fire are very open and honest about it. Like, I've played games where World Fire's been involved, and like before the game even started, people are like, "Are you okay if I cast World Fire?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I honestly love that card."
I'm not as high on it, but I also don't think it's a huge like. I mean, these are 9 and 10 mana spells respectively for World Fire and Sway of the Stars. So like, I think it's okay for them to, I don't know, not even necessarily be strong, because I think they are strong if you're building around them. But just, it's okay for spells of that caliber to have a big game warping effect, I think.
I think most people just don't like them because it feels like they feel like I most people don't like them because it like resets the game. But then again, I'm like, yeah, the game's reset, but also your life total's
Yeah.
really small, which means the games aren't going to last that much longer.
No. And you can also build around it so that either one of these is going to result in a player kill pretty soon after. I think Chandra Awakened Inferno is probably the easiest way to do that, which is the 6 mana one that upticks to give people emblems that hurt them. That's pretty much just an automatic win if you do that into World Fire, and it's going to be a pretty automatic win if you do so with Sway of the Stars.
I've also seen people combo it with like phasing effects so they can phase their commander out, or like flash effects so they can like flash in Sway of the Stars while there's this creature still on the stack, or like there's desert lands. And I've also seen a World Fire deck that ran Zergo Bellringer so that so
that the commander?
As the commander.
That rocks, actually.
So they could go, I'll cast World Fire, and then after I'll float 1 red, and then after World Fire resolves, I'll cast Zergo Bellringer. And it rocked. It did rock.
Does Zergo have haste, or is it just like a very menacing 2/2 in this context? I know that he's got dash, but
it's 1 red, so it's very easy to cast after World Fire. I don't think it has haste though.
No, it does have dash, so if you float 2 red, then you can give it haste, but I think you'd rather have it on the board at that point.
Yeah,
considering all your cards are gone.
Yeah, I've kind of want to build these cards with like one of the 1 mana partners, so you can cast these, float mana, and then cast your 1 mana partner, and that would be pretty funny. But we both think these cards are fine to be unbanned, and so we're gonna move on to the next card, which is Braid's Cabal Minion, and I think this is your turn.
Yeah, and this one is definitely worth reading out. Braids is 2 generic, 2 black for a legendary human minion, 2/2. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. Here's the thing I keep coming back to with this card. If I see this in the command zone, am I more scared of it than I would be of Turgid?
But also, you can opt out of games in Magic the Gathering where you see Braids in the command zone. You can always go, do you have another deck? Or you can always go, well, you're playing something really powerful, so I'm going to upshift.
Well, I think that was my first point with her, is like, do you think Braids is that strong in like 2025 Magic the Gathering?
I mean, I never played against Braids, so
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, she seems kind of meh, but I
I
could
mean, tax. I think it's very strategy dependent because if I'm playing anything that has even a remote tokens theme and I sit down for braids, it's like, okay, cool, I'm just going to mulligan for a token generator and then be completely fine while I get to laugh at my opponent sacking their mana rocks. But, I think it's very punishing towards slower strategies. Obviously, if you can rush her out on like turn two off of a soul ring or something, then she gets a lot more dangerous. If you play her with Turgrid, either of them being in the command zone and the other being in the 99, then I'm afraid of you and probably going to hurt you. But
I mean,
you know,
I also just play a lot of green though, and green kind of just like
yeah.
doesn't. I mean, kind of
What do you think
doesn't
this punishes the
care.
most?
Mm, it probably punishes red the most, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose red doesn't really. It depends on the type. I was thinking more strategies than like colors. Like, what strategies do you see being most impacted by someone dropping a braids on turn three or four?
Spell slingers don't play a
Yeah.
lot of permanents in the first place.
Yep. But I mean, you would hope that Spellslinger decks like have the tools to deal with.
I mean,
And even then, it depends on what type of Spellslinger. Because like if you've got a Tallrand, I think you're going to be fine with braids sticking around. But
spell slingers have a lot of like cantrips already, so they can dig for
yeah,
like their removal and their counter spells.
yeah, she just seems like a. People aren't gonna like her because she's stacks, kind of. But I'm not that worried about her. I'll have to see how people actually play her, because there's obviously more to a commander deck than just who's in the command zone. So,
Yeah, I'll
with like,
probably ask people
what?
like, how much rituals are you running? How much fast mana are you running?
Yeah,
And just generally have a pre-game conversation if I see people playing strong commanders.
yeah. Do you consider her kill on sight?
Depends on what deck I'm playing. If I'm playing
Yeah,
tokens, probably not.
yeah, that's about where I am with it too. So I guess we'll see.
All right. So I think that was all of the banned cards.
Yeah, those are all the freshly unbanned cards, but there's a bunch more cards that have been recently christened as game changers.
Or unchristened, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So I grouped these two cards together that were put onto the game changers list because they're both extremely powerful lands. One is Mishra's Workshop, which can tap to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool, but it can only be used for artifacts. And the other is Field of the Dead, which once you have 7 or more lands with different names, starts to pop out 2/2 black zombie creature tokens.
Yup.
And I just think, yeah, lands that have powerful effects should like be considered game changers. So I agree with this.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool with both of these. Having played against Field of the Dead in Standard, I know full well what that card is capable of, and I am more than happy to see it be reserved for higher power games.
Like it's very annoying even in non-landfall decks because it's
Yep.
very easy to turn on. It's not too hard to clone, and like it gives you blockers for like very minimal effort, and there's not a lot of targeted land destruction at lower tables.
Yeah, I mean, I usually make sure to include at least like a demolition field or something in almost all of my decks for the explicit purpose of hitting Field of the Dead and other such nonsense. But Field of the Dead is the first one that comes to mind. Um,
Yeah,
but
but even then, like,
I have to find it still.
yeah, demolition is one card in your 99.
Yep.
All
And
right.
it's a different story if I have like land tutors, but we'll talk about land tutors later.
All right, you want to move on?
Yes, I think we should.
All right, next we're going to talk about draw hate.
Okay. Am I taking this one? Like summarizing?
I mean, I got the last one.
Okay. So on this page, we have Narset Parter of Veils, who is a 3-mana blue planeswalker with a static ability that stops opponents from drawing more than one card each turn. Um, she also has a -2 that can like look at the top 4 and pick one of them for you, but it's mostly about the passive with her. Notion Thief, which is a 4-mana 3/1 flash card that steals draws from your opponents, except it steals extra draws. You don't get to take their first card of the draw step, but otherwise, you steal draws. And then Orcish Bowmasters, which is a 2-mana 1/1 with flash. Whenever it enters and whenever an opponent draws a card, except for again the first one on each of their draw steps, Orcish Bowmasters deals 1 damage to that target, and then amass orcs 1. I will go ahead and say, because I have, I guess, reasonably strong opinions about these, is that one thing about these kinds of draw hate cards is that they do, in some sense, scale to the power of the table, but also a lot of lower power decks are very much invested in, oh, I just want to draw 7 cards because drawing cards is fun. So I think that these make a lot of sense as game changers, both because they're going to perform well in games with a lot of other game changers, but also they can just be a little prickly at lower power tables, I suppose.
I mean, I've played against all of these cards. I think Narset I dislike the least because I always could attack her,
Yeah,
and but I guess people don't like attacking, so but I get
she's very control punishing, having played against her a lot when she was in War of the Spark Standard.
I mean, people also pair these with wheels, to be fair, and I mean,
Yeah,
6 mana is Narset plus wheel usually, and that could just like lock people out of the game. That's also a miserable play experience.
hey, they get to draw 1 card off the wheel. It says no more than 1 card each turn, so as long as they didn't draw a card before that.
I just think the most miserable out of all these is Orcish Bowmasters. Usually because it just picks off the X ones out of any game, and it's just like, yay, nobody gets to have X ones anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's more of a valid complaint in like modern, where the funny Lord of the Rings set immediately deleted Ragavan from the metagame, which as someone who doesn't play modern, I do think that's really funny. But I'm not sure how much that. I would have to see it in action more because I've not seen someone cast a Bowmasters in Commander. But one definite problem with Bowmasters is that like it doesn't actually punish the player drawing the cards. It lets you pick a target. So you can just like collude with whoever the other player is who's drawing a bunch of cards, and use all of the Orcish Bowmasters triggers to just shoot all of your other opponents, and that definitely feels a little bit scummy.
Yeah, I mean, I've played against it in one game, and it has a very similar effect to like, I can't remember the card, but it always just shoots down the tokens and the elves, even if it wasn't the right play to do, and it just feels kind of bad watching the elf player just not. I mean, or just the tokens player, like they're behind and they like have 0 cards in hand, and yet they're still being pinged. Their elves are still being pinged by the Bowmasters, and it's
I mean,
just
isn't killing elves with the Lord of the Rings orcs like a flavor win though?
it's just a miserable play experience, though.
Well, you gotta suffer for art sometimes. Come on, Jay.
I mean, anything else you want to say about these cards?
I think we've covered both of our opinions.
I'm gonna say one more hot take. Ban Orcish Bowmasters. I hate it in CEDH. All right.
I don't.
Ne- wait, what?
Oh, I don't play CDH really. Let's go on to the next slide.
So next, I put of the two tutors together, and
Yep.
that's crop rotation and gamble. Crop rotation, you sacrifice a land and you can get any land from your deck. Gamble is search your library for a card and then discard a card from your hand at random. I will say if we're going to put powerful lands on the list, crop rotation makes sense.
Yep.
And gamble, I don't know. I just feel like this is the weakest of the tutors. The meme is that it's a red entomb because you somehow
Yeah.
always manage to discard the card that you search for.
Yeah. I definitely raised an eyebrow at Gamble as well. But I mean, I Red Entomb jokes aside, like a lot of the time it is just going to be grab whatever the most powerful card in your deck is, or just whatever is best at the current moment. And you can also just build your deck around. Well, okay, even if I do discard the card, I have a regrowth in hand or something like that. But I think Gamble is fine on the Game Changers list. Uh, I think it doesn't necessarily need to go on there, but I think both of these are definitely like strong enough for it to be warranted. And then also like you can hedge against the potential downsides of both of them enough to where at a higher power or just more synergistic deck, uh, these are both going to feel a lot better, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but at like lower powers, you're not like really hedging against Gamble's downside.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time you don't need to because you just don't discard the card that you tutor for, or again, you're just running regrowth or Eternal Witness or whatever.
Yeah,
Like it's not hard.
I guess regrowth is ended. I mean, Eternal Witness is one of the most popular green creatures, so
Yep. Eternal Witness also gets your land back from crop rotation, so it's these
but
are one mana tutors
usually
with downsides, but not really.
you sacrifice a basic to crop rotation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I will agree. Most of crop rotation's power isn't that it can grab you whatever land you want. So like Field of the Dead or Valakut or whatever.
But even at lower powers, it can get you like a Bajuka Bog to
Yep.
exile a combo deck. It
At
can,
instant speed, even.
yeah, it can get you the gate land that faces a creature out to prevent yourself from dying to combat damage. It can get
Yeah.
you a Bogart Trawler, especially if you have a bounce land in hand.
Can you search for Bogart Trawler with this?
Ooh,
Because it's a creature on its front side, so I thought you could.
oh, you may be right. But if you have a Bogart Trawler on the battlefield,
Yeah, you can search for your bounce land. Yeah.
you can search for your bounce land and get your Bogart Trawler back to your hand.
Yeah, or also I think one of the biggest one is people fetching Glacial Chasm, I think it is, with this, to just turn off combat for a turn at instant speed, so that this is also a fog for some reason.
Yeah, it just does a lot. All right. Are you
Yeah.
ready for the next slide?
Yep.
All right. Next, we put two creature tutors together.
Yep. Natural Order, 4 mana. Natural Order, 4 mana. Sacrifice a green creature. Search for a green creature. It goes onto the battlefield. Worldly Tutor, 1 mana instant. Puts a creature from your deck on top of your life. Yeah, I think these are both strong, and I think they make a lot of sense on the Game Changers list.
There's a lot of powerful creatures, especially creatures that have ETB, so even if they get removed, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And with Magic's like increasing power for like even more powerful creatures, these just get better and better. And a lot of people had the criticism that green just kind of got off pretty easily the first round of like
Yeah,
game changers, and so like these are certainly some of the strongest green cards in Magic's history.
I would say so. Although one thing that I think might give both these a run for their money is Birthing Pod. Do you think Birthing Pod should be a game changer, Jam? Or like, do you have general opinions on that card?
Well, I mean, the brackets say that you're gonna want to. I think due to the bracket rules, birthing pod is fair because the bracket rules say that like don't try to like combo off too early if you're playing bracket 2 decks.
You
Like don't try to combo off before turn 7, and just like that naturally hedges against some of what birthing pod does, because birthing pod is mostly a combo card.
Yeah,
And whereas these, there's like, even if you're not playing combo, they get broken things.
yeah, they can just put your Crater Hoof on top or whatever. And I think there are some discussions to be had about like, oh, why is Crater Hoof not a game changer? But the thing that tutors for it is. But uh, I think people can go either way on which card is the problem card in that case.
I mean, there are a lot of overrun effects, so even if
Yeah,
you hit Crater Hoof, there's gonna be like 50 others. All
I
right.
mean not as many on creatures to be fair, but there's also a lot more to do with creature tutors than just find a Crater Hoof. So
Yeah. All right. Next on the list, I put two extremely powerful value engines in
uh,
Seedborn Muse and Aura Shards. Seedborn Muse, I'll talk about second. I'm going to talk about Aura. I'm going to read Aura Shards first. It's a 1 green white enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. And Seedborn Muse is 3 green green. Untap all permanents you control during each player's untap step. And the meme with Seedborn Muse is, you mean our untap step? I think these are just like, even if you don't build around them, these are just like so powerful value engines that like put you so far ahead of everybody else. And like, so yeah, these are definitely uh definitely, I think, in my opinion, deserving of game changers.
yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone's seen Seedborn Muse, but I don't see Aura Shards as often. I I do think it belongs on the list though, just because it so disproportionately hates out like artifact or enchantress players. Uh like I don't know if this is just me, but I hallucinated the word non-token on Aura Shards. It doesn't say that. You can just like, secure the waste for 15 and make a enchantress player reconsider whether or not they actually like magic that much. So
Yeah, and it's like better than a board wipe because like with a
Mhm.
board wipe you can like sort of like play around it or like run protection or like rebuild afterwards. Worst Hearts just says no to all of that because a protection spell is only
It's an
good.
enchant,
It's an
so
enchantment, so it sticks around through after your protection spell round rolls off. It's an enchantment, so it's like not like a one-time board wipe that you could plan around, and it's just like it sticks there and like hurts so much.
Although actually, if Aura Shards is the only like artifact or enchantment on the table, are you forced to target it and destroy itself?
May,
Because that would be pretty funny.
it says May.
Oh, sad.
Yeah, no, it just locks out players
Yeah.
because of that May clause. And then we've all seen a broken Seedborn Muse.
Yeah, it's like, we don't even got to discuss that one. It's you know, card printed before Commander winds up being really good in Commander because they doubled the number of players. It's a timeless tale, really.
Yeah, you essentially take 3 extra turns, even without building your deck around it. All right, that's all I have to say about these cards. You want to say anything more about these cards?
Nope. Let's move on.
All right, next up, I grouped two pretty powerful combo ish cards.
Yeah, two enchantments even. So we got Necropotence, which is a certified magic classic. Triple black. Skip your draw step, you discard things into exile, and you can pay 1 life to essentially draw a card, although you do have to wait until the beginning of your end step to get the. And then Food Chain, which lets you exile creatures to add X+1 mana, where X is their mana value. And I hadn't really seen a lot of Food Chain in action before now, but earlier today I saw a short that was someone just playing a Rocco deck in CEDH with this, and just sacking Rocco to recast Rocco to then grab Squee to make infinite mana to then search for every win condition in your deck, and you lose on the spot. So yeah, I think these are both more than strong enough to be good contenders for the Game Changers list.
And moreover, there's like not really any fair ways to play these cards because
No.
a food chain that's not going infinite is still doing broken stuff. And
Yeah.
the necropotence can just like draw your entire deck. Well, not your entire deck. You are limited by your life total. So you just draw like usually people drop necropotence, pay 20 life, draw 20 cards.
Yep.
And it gets around draw hate.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really fair things you can do with these cards.
Yeah, these aren't cards that lend themselves well to just being fair value engines. Smile.
Although
You kind of gotta be cheap with them.
I will say that food chain art, I do like it a lot.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this food chain art before, but I love the worm vibe. It's really good.
To be a worm in the food chain loop.
I think that's all that needs to be said about these cards.
All right. Next, we're gonna talk about two cards that were no. These cards were added to the Game Changer list. One is humility. Two. Wait, is it your turn?
I think it's your turn, but I can read them if you want.
No, one is humility. It's 2 white. Each creature loses all abilities and is a 1/1 creature. And one is consecrated sphinx. 4 blue. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. I will say humility is a miserable play experience, so it deserves to be on here. Concentrated sphinx, though, is a little bit eyebrow raising.
I think I have the exact opposite opinion as you. I mean, I don't think either of these cards are very fun, but I'd rather play against Humility than Consecrated Sphinx, because the second a Consecrated Sphinx drops down, it's like, oh, okay, this game just got like 20 minutes longer than it needed to be.
That's true. Consecrated Sphinx adds a lot of time just because it's like every draw that every upkeep, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna draw 2 cards. Oh, I'm gonna draw 2 cards. Oh, and that's a little bit of annoying. But
it's reminiscent of the Orcish Bowmasters thing we talked about earlier, in that it doesn't actually punish it, the card draw thing. It just kind of encourages other players to draw the cards to help you, if anything. Sorry for cutting you off. Go. What were you gonna say?
I mean, yeah, especially if there's 2 consecrated sphinx is in play. Or if someone clones your consecrated sphinx, those players can just like collude to like win the game, and like it doesn't even matter what the other players were doing.
Yeah.
And
can I just say though, like, The art on humility is so good. I'm in love with it.
I am
And
in love with the art too, but it's a miserable card to play
I,
against.
well, I feel like it's supposed to be like a zany card, you know? It's like, oh, I play humility. Now all of our things are 1/1s. Look at this funny skeleton and the dragon. We should all just throw our 1/1s at each other. Wouldn't that be fun? But
No, that's never how it works. Because
I know.
it's like a Hushbringer combined with a Kudo, a King Among Bears. And it's like both of those cards are like people sort of dislike them. But like now that
Well, I mean, I feel like people dislike Kudo because every Kudo deck is just going to be like, oh, I tutor for Elish Norn, and now you're not allowed to have creatures anymore. But humility is at least symmetrical. I'll give it that.
I mean, not really. The person who puts a humility in their deck knows that humility
Yeah,
is in their deck and is putting stuff in their deck that gets around humility. Things like,
yeah, it's symmetrical in the way that crop rotation and gamble are fair tutors, quote unquote. Like, because they're not because you're going to be building around. But
I
I don't know.
wish I
I
wish
got a
we
soft spot.
I wish we had this art on different card. That way I could actually play it and people would actually smile.
You just proxy like I don't know. Proxy Asa Karlov, just write that in at the top and change one of the white pips.
That's all I have to say about these cards. You want to say anything more about these cards?
I think we're good to move on.
All right.
I almost instinctively booed when I saw Teferi's protection on the screen.
Well, it's a good thing that it's your turn to talk about these cards.
Yeah.
Then.
Okay. So Teferi's protection, 2 and a white instant. I have to not swear when talking about this card. Let me just read it. Until your next turn, your life total can't change and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile Teferi's protection. And then we have Deflecting Swat, which is 2 and a red for an instant. If you control a commander, the spell is free. Change the target of a spell or ability.
Yeah, these are just like some best in class defensive spells. And they're very annoying.
They are very annoying because Deflecting Swat is free and encourages a lot of collateral damage when you try to remove someone's commander and then suddenly one of your own permanents is dying, even if you weren't the one that cast the removal spell. And then Teferi's protection just nullifies pretty much all game actions you can take against a player. I will say someone pointed out that untargeted mill still works against Teferi's protection, which is really funny. But yeah, for most game plans, you just won't be able to do anything about Teferi's protection, short of like countering it.
Yeah, deflecting spot. I will say it can also redirect a counter spell onto itself. So it hits removal spell and counter spells. And Teferi's protection is a fog, protect my board, and the best Angel's Grace effect, all rolled into one for way too cheap of a mana cost.
Yep.
And it's just like so freaking annoying. Just because like with other protection spells, like there's like methods to like beating them. Like you can haste out creatures and smack them, or you can also protect your board and then smack them, or you can cast another board wipe in the next turn order, or you can commander damage them out, and Teferi's protection just like removes
Says no to all of that.
Says no to all of that, which is also why I dislike deflecting swat a bit too, because free counter magic is like they're tapped out. I think I can go for this and it's gonna be a-okay. And then it's just like no. And
Yeah,
like I'm playing at a lower bracket. My interact being tapped out should mean something.
I would tend to agree. Yeah, I mean, I think Bolt Bend is just a better version of this design because one mana is so categorically infinite more than zero.
Yeah, one mana can kind of be telegraphed.
Yeah, at the very least, you're expecting them to be holding something up. If you see one red mana, it's like, oh, okay, they could have Lightning Bolt. I should pay attention to that. But
Yeah, whereas if deflecting SWAT is like there isn't a lot of counterplay.
nope.
All right, next we're going to talk about two cards that were removed from the Game Changers list, and that's Trinisphere and Trouble in Pairs. Trinisphere is an artifact for 3. As long as it's untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 cost 3 mana to cast. And Trouble in Pairs is 2 white white. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, they skip that turn. That line of text doesn't really matter. And whenever an opponent attacks with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card, or casts their second spell, you draw a card. And these were both removed from the Game Changers list. And I will say I slightly disagree with Trouble in Pairs.
I think that Trouble in Pairs just adds a lot of like tracking to the game that doesn't necessarily need to be there. If it was like once a turn, like this ability triggers only once per turn, I think that would be okay. But the fact that both you have to track so many separate things and you can potentially draw 3 cards in a turn or more if people are doing nonsense at instant speed off of it.
It's three.
Yeah.
It's 3 cards in a turn cycle
Yeah.
minimum because it hits so many things. It hits second spell, second card drawn, and attacks with 2 or more creatures. One, your opponents are most likely going to be doing at least one, if not more, of
Mhm.
those things. So this is going to be drawing upwards of 3 cards a turn cycle.
And like, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but like, Ristic Study does this a little bit better because you can just pay the 1 for Ristic Study, but if your deck is a tokens deck, you can't just attack with 1 creature. If you're in Spellslinger, you can't just cast only 1 spell, really. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think it's like hugely egregious, but I would have been fine with Trouble in Pairs staying. How do you feel about Trinisphere?
I like Trinisphere.
Yeah.
I think stacks at lower tables is like it depends on the stacks piece, of course, but like stacks in general doesn't affect lower power tables as much as it affects higher power tables because
Yeah.
lower power tables are already playing slower games and stacks just says slow the game down, and
Yep.
we're at lower power, so we're already playing slower games.
Also, unless you're landing this on like unless you're landing Trinisphere, I mean, on turn 2, a lot of decks just aren't gonna care that it's out. And I think Trinisphere is a good example of a card that does actually hate out like higher power strategies disproportionately. If someone is playing like a cute Spellslinger deck, then that sucks for them, I guess. But for the most part, the decks that are going to be chock full of like 1 and 2 mana spells are stronger decks. So I think it's fine to allow Trinisphere at lower power levels.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right, and the last we're going to talk about commander wish list. So, do you want to talk about your commander wish list first?
Um, yeah, I suppose. I guess worth noting is that I believe it was Gavin Verhey. It's still about these 2 cards that said they're probably not going to make any more changes to the ban list, or maybe the bracket system until next year. I forgot if they said that about both, but definitely the ban list. So I wouldn't expect to see either of these get banned very soon. But I
Right.
was looking at Leovold, um, who Gavin has also said would be unlikely to come off the list, which just stops opponents from drawing more than one card per turn, and also you draw a card when stuff gets targeted. I know exactly why this is banned. It's also because of wheels, but I don't know. I think Leovold is funny. Look at his smirk and his extended hand towards you. I just think he's funny, and we should free him. But
Well, he's banned
come to regret.
because he's able to be in your command zone. But like Gavin said that commanders that are like strong are like always able to like be seen, like it's always a known card, and so
Yeah,
it's like commanders are less likely to be put on the game changers list, or less likely to like, or more likely to be unbanned, simply because like you can see those cards and like opt into those experiences even without a bracket level discussion.
yeah. I mean, this is true. However, I feel like no one is ever happy to see Leopold. Kind of a lot like Notion Thief, Bowmasters, and Art said earlier, because everyone likes to draw cards. Lower power decks like to draw cards, higher power decks like to draw. There's a reason that blue isn't the only color that does it anymore. Like, no one likes card draw hate. So I fear that Leovold will stay imprisoned for his crimes, and honestly, that's fair. But if something was going to come off the ban list at this point, Leovold is probably the one that would make me personally the happiest.
I will say I think Leovold might be fine unless CEDH players don't want Leovold to come off,
Yeah,
because you can't, like, all that stuff I just said about opting out of games doesn't really apply to CEDH. Like, you can't
yeah,
say I don't want to play against that because you're playing at the most competitive level. And all right, I'm gonna talk about my wishlist cards.
yes.
I hope that when we come back next year in 2026, that Gavin says we're considering banning Ristic Study because everybody hates Ristic Study, and it also is a scourge on CEDH too.
Yeah. Again, I don't really keep up with CEDH too much, but
Well,
Ristic Study is a very silly Magic the Gathering card.
okay. Here's let me give it to you, okay? People are playing 3 mana clone enchantment effects.
Oh no. They're busting out Mirror Maid?
They're busting out Mirror Maid because
Oh,
Ristic
hell
Study
no.
is that powerful.
Yeah. I mean I might be like in just imagining this. I feel like I've heard people say that they think that Mystic Remora is actually stronger in CDH. Would you agree with that?
I would disagree. I feel like cumulative upkeep is like easier to play around. And the thing about but and like it's just people don't really want to play around cumulative upkeep, which is why it feels stronger.
Yeah, I would generally agree. Um
I feel like CDH players should do like us casual players do, and just like play around the cumulative upkeep. Because I've played a Mystic Remora, and everybody was just like, I'm not gonna play my mana rock until this is dead. And like, yeah, my Mystic Remora didn't do anything the whole game.
yep.
And like
And
CEDH players could just go, I'm not gonna try to combo off until this is gone. Do you, as everybody else, agree? And like they could get around it that way, but like you don't get this with like Mystic Remora. I mean, Ristic SETI, because it
Yeah.
doesn't go away.
Well, not without using removal, but
Yeah, but
you
if
got to
you
draw
try,
the removal, and it costs one more effectively.
yeah, if you draw the removal and don't pay for the Ristic tax, they have a chance to counter your removal spell.
Well, it, many such cases, but I don't know. I would be very skeptical of Ristic Study leaving the format just because it's so iconic. But I I would not hate to see it go. Like there's some people, there's some politicians namely who like I'm just waiting for the day I see their name on a headline in the obituaries. Ristic Study is on that list too.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching our podcast today. Tell us about maybe some of your wish list cards as well. And
Yeah, or general opinions on unbannings and game changerifyings of stuff.
all right. Thank you. Bye.
Drive safe.